In today's video, I'm going to be attempting to spruce up this part of my garden in between my kitchen door and patio door. I'm going to be using a number of bits from the garden. I've got some offcuts from a pond I built earlier on in the year. These are sleepers, offcuts of sleepers. This is a 200 litre water container I've had for many years sitting in the garage. And this is a half whiskey barrel plastic, takes about 100 litres, which I'm going to use as a filter. Got a few plants lying around the place, so what I'm going to do is with these materials, I'm going to see what I can put together and try and make a water feature to make it look a bit better in here. So the offcut sleepers are going to be arranged in such a way that they support both the 280 litre container and the 100 litre half whiskey barrel container with a bit of gap in either side. I mean, the idea of using the sleepers is they look quite nice on the floor, and not only that, they do give a little bit of insulation against the cold floor. Once the containers are in place, I got the long level out and checked everything to make sure it was all good. Then came the plants I had available to me, so I spent a bit of time messing around with these and putting them in various positions to try and make the pond look a bit more natural and bring a bit of greenery to it. Once I was happy with the positions of the plants, it was time to get some water into these containers. Now the water was going to be coming from the existing fancy goldfish pond I built earlier on in the year. As I'm going to be moving some of those fancy goldfish over, the idea is to use the water from this existing pond. I'm also going to be transferring some of the filter media, so it helps against, new pond syndrome. Done this numerous times in the past, and it really does help when starting up a new tank. Obviously, you need an existing pond to begin with, but there's minimal shock to the fish because you're essentially transferring the same water and filter material just over to a separate container. I'm going to be using a 900 litre an hour pump and a 400 watt heater because it's a 280 litre container. The whiskey barrel's 100 litres. You're probably looking at 350 litres of water in total once the filter material's in there. With it containing fancy goldfish and being outside, it is going to have to be heated. I'm hoping the 400 watt heater is enough. If not, I may up it. It depends. I'll keep an eye on it as we go along. So here I am placing the 900 litre an hour pump in the opposite corner to where the overflow is on the filter. The pump actually has suckers on the bottom because it's quite a small pump, so I'm going to push that to the bottom of the container, then hide the hose round the back, and then that hose is then going to go into the filter. With that in position, I'm now going to put some sand into the bottom of the container. In the past, I've tended to use pea-sized gravel, but this time round, I think I'm going to go with the sand. When you're looking at the fish from above, I think the goldfish stand out a little better due to the colour of the sand compared to all the multitude of colours with pea-sized gravel. Simply poured it into the container and tried to get an even spread. I did end up taking the pump and the heater out to get the sand out of it and replacing them. While letting that settle, I was then going to move on to the filter. We have the 100 litre half whiskey barrel. I've got an overflow and a flush valve. Got 2 bags of alpha grog and some Scottish pebbles. Now, this is a hell of a lot of filtration for a pond this size. I mean, the filter is roughly a third the volume of the actual container. It does mean we can have a few more fish in there though, so I'm going to get started on drilling a hole for the bottom flush valve. You just need to match the hole saw to the size of the bottom valve you're installing. When drilling the hole, place something underneath the container or, hoover up afterwards because the plastic can be a danger to wildlife. Once the hole's drilled, try and smooth off the edges as best you can. Insert the valve and screw it on. Once you've assembled the whole valve, line it up and then use a pair of grips and tighten it up properly. Flush valve is essential because by flushing it once a week, and then doing a little water change to replace the water you flushed out, you're keeping your pond and your filter very healthy and clean. I would happily use this size filter on any pond up to about 1,000–1,500 litres stocked with goldfish. The only thing you might have to change is the size of the pump and the overflow to correspond with that size pump. On this container there's a bit of an overhang of plastic, so I'm just cutting out a little section here so I can get the overflow on correctly. You can use any type of plastic container to build this filter, it's just whatever you fancy really and whatever fits in with your setup. Again, when drilling, just size the hole saw slightly bigger than the tank connector you're using. Once the hole's drilled, smooth the edges and tighten up the nut and give it a few turns with the grips. Once the flush valve and the overflow have been installed, it's time to move the container back next to the pond, line it up, fill it up with water and test it. You need to make sure everything's running smoothly and there's no leaks first before you put any stones or alpha grog in or whatever you're putting in, because it's a pain, you know, if you find issues and you've got to get it all out again. As the water was rising here, I noticed a few bits of floating plastic, so I fished them out because obviously I don't want the fish eating them. The size of the outflow here is a little bit on the smaller side for 900 litres an hour, so I've got a flow reducer, so I will reduce that slightly to probably about 700 litres an hour. It should be fine. I cut slits in the pond hose, position it around the outside of the container and have the end of it in the middle, then position the cobbles, not crushing the hose, and then covering the clean valve as well. This gives an even spread of water. When you position the hose around the outside and position the rocks carefully, when the added weight of the alcohol goes in the top, it won't crush the flexible hose. I'm going to evenly distribute some of this filter material I've taken out of the fancy Goldfish pond existing filter. I'm not even sure what this stuff is called. I mean, it's from an existing filter. It's the very first filter actually I bought years ago, but I mean I've just kept it and gradually put it in other DIY filters that I've built. As it already contains beneficial bacteria on the surface area, you know, it gives the new filter a boost. I did make holes in the bottom of these alpha grog bags, open the top and, you know, pour quite a few litres of pond water through them to try and get most of the dirt out. But I don't think you're ever really going to get all of it out. So that's the 2 bags of alpha grog in and evenly spread. I have got this plant here that I'm just going to sit there on the top. It's a bit late in the year now, you know, we're into September, but as soon as the springtime comes round, you know, that will kick back into life. So the pump's been turned back on and this is slowly filling up now. As you can see, with the dirt from the alpha grog and the sand as well, I mean this is looking pretty filthy at the minute, but given time this will all filter out. Once it clears up, I'll flush that bottom drain and then top the water back up again, and it'll all be ready to go and clean. This is how it was looking the following day. It's cleared up a little bit. I did put some plants in there from the fancy Goldfish pond. They help a little bit with the filtering as well. I've adjusted the flow rate slightly as well, but that water level on the filter is still sitting quite high, so I think there's a possibility I may have to increase the size of the outflow. It's been 48 hours now, and as you can see, that's really cleared that water up. That's approaching crystal clear now, I would say. So the filter's done its job there. The next thing I'm going to do is clad the pond with this wood. I'm going to cut it down and stick it round the sides with some CT1. I'm hoping it makes it look a little bit better. I was simply putting 2 blobs of the CT1 on there and then lining it up and sticking it onto the side of the container. I simply stuck 6 at a time, stood back, had a little look and made sure they were all lined up straight and moved on to the next section. After around 4 or 5 days I opened up the cleaning valve, got some of the water out, then replaced it, tested the water, and it was all looking good, so I introduced a couple of goldfish to keep the beneficial bacteria ticking over. Obviously they need the ammonia to stay alive. With the wood added to the side of the container, that was pretty much it now. Over the next 2 weeks I slowly added a few more fish, and here we are, it's nearing the end of October, and it's looking quite nice. I mean, we have a bit of space on the sleepers there at the front, so as soon as spring comes round, you know, I'll get it planted a little bit better, and I think it will look really nice. I'll leave you with some short videos of the fish and some close-ups. They're enjoying their new home, and I hope you've enjoyed the video.